I love how solid it is. Because it's steel reinforced in the middle, its deflection is minimal, and that makes it a joy to turn. Hi, I'm from the future. Famous last words, right? It turned out that even though it has a steel core, I was talking about how the deflection was minimal. Yet, as we narrow it down, it gets worse. It became an issue, and there was a lot of chattering. So I had to take a brief diversion, so I made this in 10 minutes. That's sarcasm. Let me show you about this. What is this thing? It's not as awesome as it looks, trust me. But it's nevertheless interesting, and I love a good engineering challenge as much as the next YouTuber. So let's time travel backwards, and we'll get to this in a minute. Okay, the entire process seems to use mostly 3 gouges. The roughing gouge, and the parting tool to make this hairline precision line, and then I use this 90-degree tool to smooth that off in both directions. It's just a repetition of those 3 processes. Next, I have to open this up a little bit so that the jewel can fit down in. Here's an interesting note about the Jurassic Park cane. There are 12.5 vertebrae if we count this as a half, and if we don't count the ring at the top at all. Each of these vertebrae, as we go down the cane, increases in length by 1 millimeter. So I can't remember what this is, but you add a millimeter as you go down, add another, add another, add another. But at the same time, the diameter of each vertebrae reduces by 1 millimeter. So I'm starting with 37 millimeters here, 36, 35, and so on, down to 26 is my final diameter, and that's in the skinniest part here. This is not entirely faithful with respect to it being a screen prop recreation, but I had to take some liberties, some compromises. I had to make some compromises because, for one, I wanted it to be functional. I wanted it to actually be able to support a human body, and given material limitations, you have to consider all those things, and those set our parameters. And I wanted it to be faithful enough that it was reasonable without doing a disservice to the end product itself. We live in an imperfect world, and we have to constantly make compromises. Here's another case of compromise. Here's my ideal template, but the profile is just too aggressive. If we apply it exactly at 90 degrees, it just becomes too aggressive for me to maintain my measurements. So we do what we can. There are a few other things I would like to mention about this video, just because it was an extensive video and there was a lot to the process, and you could probably pick out inconsistencies. The template that I show in the video, I didn't end up using at all. It was too small. I had to increase it in length just to compensate for... it's just long and hard to explain and rather boring, to be honest, but the short end of it is that the jewel at the top is larger than the screen prop, and the screen prop is also way narrower at the bottom than is even remotely reasonable for anything but a movie prop. And also the cane was too short in real life for any adult male to use, so I wasn't entirely faithful to it. Anyhow, here's the prototype. It's a mixture of green ochre, acrylic, and whitewash stain, like white stain. Not wipe on polyurethane, just regular polyurethane wiped on. I think I'll probably detail the process in the video. It came from this. This is one of those cove moldings, and this was a sample for a picture frame that I made, and this is where the idea originally came from. Because it looked so much like bone, I thought, boy, I would really like to reproduce that bone cane, and that was quite a number of years ago. So I contacted Peter Brown, who is the world's foremost authority on resin stuff. Okay, anyhow, the tape that I pull off of the blank in the video, this is to apply as a pattern to the second one. It's to make a better copy. This is kind of interesting. This needle gouge, parting tool, you can use it to make these hair-like lines that are really, really fine. But a problem is sharpening them. It's not so easy to sharpen them because it has such a strange geometry to it. And ideally it has like a curvature at the top, so this is what I've been doing. Now I know there are better ways, but this is one of those spherical carborundum bits. And I press it, I keep it nice and wet, and I press it this way and this way. And if you think about it, you'll understand why that's effective. What else do I want to go on the record saying with respect to this video? I don't know, that's all for now. Okay, well, behind the scenes, we can do the behind the scenes thing. For one, oh, wait until you see that. This is something really cool that I'm working on that will blow your mind, but not today. All of the flammables were not flammable. This is entirely empty. This is too. I actually bled it completely dry and even removed the valve, so there's nothing in here but pure atmospheric nitrogen. Nitrogen, oxygen, atmospheric mixture. Yeah, this is just an empty thing of vinegar with the warning label on it. I was just trying to induce panic. Even the alcohol that was open is just water. Okay, this is kind of cool. Something I've been considering doing. I bought some of these. The quick slide too. And I was thinking about giving them away. I might order another batch, but giving them away... No, I won't do pink. I think I was going to do like this. Put this sort of logo in here and then epoxy it flat and then paint the entire thing this fluorescent green. This is only painted pink so that it's highly visible, but I figured the fluorescent green would do just as well because there's nothing else in here that's fluorescent green. But this has to stick out like a sore thumb because this is my primary tool. Anyhow, I was thinking about making a few in that design and giving them away. Not in the form of a contest, mind you. There are just logistics problems with doing those contest/giveaway things. I think I might just randomly, not even randomly, I'm probably going to select people who have been supportive of this channel and just ask you for your address and I'll send you one. If I do this, I'll do a making of those videos and then try to explain it in better thought out, in a more clarified form. Right now I'm just thinking out loud, but I think it could be fun, and I would like to show appreciation to the people that have been really supportive of the weird things that I do here. Anyhow, that's all for now. I'm off. At this point, I still have a ways to go. The bottom one is pretty well thinned down, but I'm still going to take a little bit more, probably about 1 millimeter off of the overall diameter all the way across. The top one has a long way to go, probably 3 or 4 millimeters. Sorry about the metric. You should know both systems though, really. Okay, this. Oh, one more diversion. I have the fluorescence on, so let me know what you think about the color. If you prefer this sort of crisp, hospital-like, sterile lighting, then let me know. I want your feedback. I want to give you an enjoyable viewing experience, and the people watching this are the opinions that I'm really concerned with. Okay, on to this. I know you like mechanical apparatus or you wouldn't be here. This is called a spindle steady, I think. I only just quickly Googled the term, and then I didn't like any of the designs that I saw in Google Images, so I just decided to start from scratch with my own design. And the first thing that I did was, these little screw holes had screws in them, and there were rubber bands across, and you could connect to various screws to adjust the amount of compression that it put on. I didn't even tell you what it is yet, did I? Okay, an object fits in it, a long spindle or something fits in it on the lathe so that you can minimize the deflection in the middle. It kind of locks it in place so that it can't shake all over the place. Because when it does, when you apply a gouge, it pushes down on it and it pushes it away as it cuts, and then it pops back, and then you'll start to get this sinusoidal pattern where it just goes boom, 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 in this sort of vibrating motion that cuts these little grooves. You know where you'll see this often, and I've always been fascinated with this? In a countersink. If you countersink at a sometimes at the wrong speed, you'll get this hexagonal pattern will start to emerge. I'm sure you've seen it, especially if your countersink is dull. But okay, back to this. This part down here attaches to the post. This is really incidental. It doesn't matter much to the overall design, because if you have like that T-track or that flat bed sort of design on your lathe, then this would be different. This is the part that we're interested in. These things, these arms, go around and apply a downward force, and it has to be offset by something going. It's very difficult to explain this. Okay, wait, back up. Back to the rubber bands. I used rubber bands in varying arrangements to squeeze the two arms together, but that left me with this problem. So at first, these grooves, these slots weren't here, so this was just locked with a rigid pin. And then this half of this adjustable lower arm was held up with rubber bands also. And I found I had a really nice geometrical arrangement of places to put the rubber bands on so that you could adjust all three suspensions independently. It really worked kind of nicely in theory, but the rubber band approach wasn't correct, because it just gave and it didn't lock in to a defined path, which is, that latter approach is what would work better, which I discovered later. But at first my working theory was just rubber bands in compression in a compression state will suck it into the middle and take up any loose vibrations. I don't know that the way that I was thinking about the physics, it just didn't support, it just wasn't the right decision. Okay, anyhow, so I abandoned that. I wish I would have taken a picture. And I abandoned it in favor of this design, which the idea was, first you apply these to the position that you want, and then tighten. Let's do it in place, it'll be easier to understand. So the idea in this revision was hold the top two wheels tight, tighten these knobs, which I'll show you how to make those in a bit, and then apply pressure here. Tighten this knob. And finally this one. But look what happens. It's a lot to think about, I know. So, I did what I could. And it rolls nicely. After some adjustment. But it just didn't reduce the chatter in use. And I've tried all sorts of different variations. But of course you're free to speculate and offer me suggestions for improvements. But I'm going to have to probably chalk this one up as a failure. Or at least on indefinite pause. Because, okay, so it's a beautiful apparatus, but we have to not lose the plot. The object of the game is to reduce chattering, and I found that using a sharp chisel, yes, before we go on, yes, I did make sure that the tailstock was loosened. It was just snug. The object of the game is to reduce chatter. This actually seems to make it worse. I don't know if it's because it's not secure enough. I just don't even want to think about it anymore. I want to move on. So, discuss amongst yourselves, but leave me out of it, please. I put in my time, and you're free to use it, incorporate it, modify it, whatever you want. It's still neat. I mean, it's fascinating. It's just not very effective for its job. Well, I really need to move on with this project. I want to get this done and over with, so I think I'm off. But I'm so prone to distraction, in case you haven't noticed. Oh, look at this. Remember when you're using one of these circular saw things to check that the guard is in place. That way you don't have to worry about the sparks burning your hand.